Hey, good morning, everybody. This is BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, so the James Harden deal has gone through. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to make more than one video on this because there's so many different things to talk about in regards to this situation. So many different angles and many teams that are going to be affected by this. So this changes the entire landscape of the Eastern Conference. Many will say of the NBA. We will see what the West, you know, if the West will have any consequence in this situation. But this is what we got. So James Harden is now going to be a Brooklyn Net. 4 pick swaps, 3 first-round picks. Victor Oladipo, Radisson Crouch, I believe this is how you say his name. I think it's another player as well going to the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets are getting a very fair haul for James Harden coming their way. Also in that deal, the Nets have agreed to trade Taurean Prince and Jared Allen, which I think is going to hurt them. He's going to be headed out to the Cleveland Cavaliers. You got another aspect of this trade where the Brooklyn Nets had to relinquish the rights to Caris LeVert. They sent him to Houston. Houston then turned around and sent him to the Pacers and are bringing back Victor Oladipo, which I think is pretty interesting there. Yeah, that I believe there's another aspect to this trade as well that I'm probably forgetting. No, that's the 4 corners of the trade. So I might have left a player out here or there, but that's what you got right now. The first thing I want to mention is, well, maybe this is what Kyrie was upset about. And I alluded to this possibility being a scenario, one of several scenarios that could be. But I just felt like Kyrie Irving, the way he's going about this, the timing of it all made you think either he was protesting or it was either something going on in his real life or something he was upset about in regards to the team. And we all know that he and Kyrie Irving are not he and James Harden are not a great fit on paper. We know that. They both do some of the same things. They're both not very defensive players. They're both play the same position. There's a lot of stuff that they do alike. And that could be potentially problematic on the court. Now that they are lacking size, I don't know if Kyrie had any idea of what the framework of the deal would be, but they've just erased a great deal of what they had on their bench that made them special. It's just about everybody on that bench is gone. And now you have a situation where it's going to be upon those 3 to take on not only every offensive assignment and score like crazy, which shouldn't be hard, but now all 3 of them are going to be tasked with taking on some very serious defensive assignments. Now I know they still have some guys that they like a lot on that team outside of those 3. DeAndre Jordan is somebody that they believe in. His usage rate goes back up. He's not playing with another big, which is kind of scary. You had insurance for him, even though he's one of the more durable players out there. Nevertheless, he's a little long in the tooth. Having insurance for him, having a guy like Jared Allen kept him fresh, kept both of them fresh, and didn't put as much onus on him to block shots because Jared Allen is one of the top 5 shot blockers in all of basketball. He's leaving your locker room, but DeAndre Jordan gets high usage, so I'm sure DeAndre will enjoy that and take advantage of it, particularly on the boards. You're going to get a lot of rebounds out of Jordan this year going forward, I think. A guy like Joe Harris is going to have all kinds of open shots. He's having a career year. He's just continuing to get better and better and better and better. I could argue if he continues to ascend, they'll have something look like a big 4. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you look at the numbers Joe Harris is putting up, coupled with his minutes and his usage, he's playing close to all-star level basketball right now, and that was incredible because he was sharing it with of course the likes of KD and Caris LeVert, and early on in the season Spencer Dinwiddie. But Yeah, right now it looks like he's going to be the guy that's going to be getting some open looks, to say the least. I don't know if he'll get the ball a whole lot, but he'll be open. So that's a dangerous, extremely dangerous player to have open. So they have a lot of offensive weapons. Brooklyn Nets going to be able to score 160 points a game if they truly want to, and they're going to be able to do it really, really easily. And that's with or without Kyrie Irving, to be completely honest with you. So with that being said, they have some guys like Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot. He's a nice young player that's going to get a lot of minutes on their bench. Bruce Brown, I don't know a whole lot about his game, but I understand him to be a defensive player. They're going to need him to be a top perimeter defender for them, because Lord knows they don't have a whole lot of that at this point in time. Let's just be honest. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the Brooklyn Nets are able to do, because unlike the rest of the league, they actually have a big three that they have to pay for. They didn't draft any of these people. Okay, the Golden State Warriors were able to pull off the big three thing because they drafted 3 of them. These guys are not drafted. It's going to be very difficult, and I mean extremely difficult, for the Brooklyn Nets to put together a cohesive team around those 3. Doing it around 2 players, it's not hard anymore. At this point in time, if you know what you're doing, you can get some really good talent down there. You've seen the Lakers do it. You've seen other teams do it as well. Clippers did it last year. You can get a really, really good team around a duo in this era. A trio who all are making supermax money, buddy, you're going to have to look and dig in the G League. You're going to have to go around finding some guys in the draft, at the back of the draft. You're going to have to find you a THT, a Kuzma. Y'all going to have to do some due diligence to make sure that your team is strong surrounding those 3 players. James Harden is very durable. You like the chances of him being able to make it through a season. Kyrie Irving is made out of glass. KD, everybody loves what KD looks like right now, but I'm a realist when it comes to an Achilles injury. And at some point in time, we're going to see KD dealing with that injury. It's going to happen. I'm telling all of you that I don't expect KD to have as much comfort on the basketball floor as this season progresses, and as these seasons progress, as he's looked to start this season. I personally think that he is hiding some of what it is that his body may not be able to do through his greatness. But I see him. He ain't sprinting hard like he could be. He's dunking, he's doing what he does, and he's shooting his jump shots, and he's doing it. But let me tell you, I've watched these highlights. KD is picking his spots. He is picking his spots, and he's picking them carefully. I know he's aware that injury is going to have some effect on him if he doesn't feel it already. He's cautious of it. I can see it in his play. So at this point, it's like he's just kind of rolling. He looks like MVP KD, and I think he's getting away with it, to be honest with you. I haven't heard anyone else say this. I'm the only person saying this. He looks good. In fact, he looks great. But I'm just wondering what this looks like for the long haul. That was an Achilles. That's all I got to say about that. And with him having to take on, see, this is the thing. The Brooklyn Nets were deceptively deep before making this trade. They had a lot of guys on that team who could get you and hit you from different angles. That's why it looked like they were going to be the best team in the East, and it was very disappointing to see them as 500, because the weapons that they had, like I said, Joe Harris is playing close to all-star level basketball, and he wasn't even the 5th or 6th option before this trade. So they were deep, and that took away some of the pressure for KD to have to take on defensive assignments. He didn't have to rim protect like he did in Golden State. Well, guess what? It's going to be on him to rim protect like he did in Golden State now that this trade has gone through. Jared Allen made life so easy on the Brooklyn Nets because they knew, even when DeAndre Jordan wasn't out there or was sitting down or what have you, that they had one of the best shot blockers playing at the best level of his career at this point right now. He was rebounding the ball. He was scoring the ball at a high clip. He is doing everything. And the guy can even stretch the floor a little bit. He's not afraid to launch a three-point shot. So when you have a guy like that and he's leaving your locker room, boy, is it going to be on other people to figure out how to make up what it is that he brought to the table. And now that you have these three players on the same team, it's going to be a different energy when guys come into your building. Guys are going to be wanting to take advantage of whatever they can because they know if they don't bring their best, they're going to get blown out. So what does that mean? Guys are going to be attacking your bigs. And who are your bigs? DeAndre Jordan and Kevin Durant. So all that stuff about him looking great and being spry and jumping all of that, now he's going to have to bang with people. Now he's going to have to take on some of these assignments. Who's going to guard AD when it comes down to the finals? I'm going to let you know who's going to have to guard AD if they don't do something. It's going to be KD. And let me tell you something. I don't want KD guarding AD if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan. I don't want him checking that dude. And that's where you're going to run into your problems, Brooklyn. You're not going to have any problem scoring on. You're going to be able to score on every possession. But the problem that you're going to run into when it's time to win a ring is the Lakers can score on every possession too. And we're more cohesive. And we have better defensive players. We're a deeper team. And quite honestly, our stars are more reliable. Chances are you're going to see KD and AD and LeBron James on the floor. I don't know that Kyrie will be there. I don't know that James Harden is not going to fizzle out like he always does in the playoffs, because that's what he does. Just like Paul George, James Harden goes to sleep in the playoffs. So we're going to see. KD's going to make shots. He's going to always have a mid-range. He's going to always have a three-point shot. He's going to always be able to get to the line because he's just that great. But on the other side of the ball, he's going to have to be what he was for Golden State in order for this team to win it. And that I do not see possible at this point in stage in his career. I just don't see that. They need Jared Allen. This deal wasn't going to get done unless Jared Allen was in the trade. So I'm not saying that the Brooklyn Nets should not have made this trade or let Jared Allen be the reason this trade didn't take place. If you're a GM, this is your responsibility to make this type of splash. You don't have even a moment to think about whether or not you're going to acquire James Harden. You got to acquire James Harden. Like, that's something you need on your resume. I don't care what team you're GMing for. This is about a GM's career. You need to make that trade. So ain't no question about whether or not Jared Allen was going to hold up the trade. That was never going to happen. But in that same token, you do need to figure out what you're going to do for rim protection. You cannot be going into these playoffs with the situation that I just described to y'all. That's a recipe for disaster. They might not even get to the finals if KD has to take on that large of a role defensively. They better find something. So that's what I got to say about the Brooklyn Nets. But again, they're going to be able to score like crazy. They're going to blow everybody out. Chances are if you're going into Barclays, you're getting blown out. I'm just telling people right now. And I know they're going to have things to work out in terms of style of play. Like I said, defensively, they're going to be awful. But they're going to run it up, bro. James Harden, I do understand what James Harden can do. He can drop 60, he can drop 15, he can drop 12. Like, in one game, rebounds, assists, and points. He can do this, man. He can do that. We know KD. KD's one of the best scorers to ever play the game. And Kyrie Irving, if he ever decides to step back on the basketball floor, I'm pretty certain he's still going to be the best dribbler of the basketball who's ever played the game. So, I'm not going to underrate the seriousness of this trio. But the thing about this trio is it doesn't fit. And because it doesn't fit, you need to find creative ways. Once again, creative coaches. We need to find a creative way to make this style work. Now, the good thing is, these are very, very smart basketball players, to say the least. So if you put a solid system in place, they're going to master it quickly. And I don't think it's going to take longer than 3 games for them to get a synergy about themselves. Plus, they've been practicing together already. So I think they kind of know what they look like together, if nothing else. So now for the Brooklyn Nets, you just got to figure out what's up with Kyrie. Is he happy with this deal or is he unhappy with this deal? That's the big mystery. And there's many different scenarios that you can attach yourself to, but the reality is we just don't know. It's all speculation, including everything that I've talked about in previous videos. I'm just speculating. Until Kyrie Irving opens his mouth and says, this is what I'm doing, we do not know. But from my perspective, it did look like he wasn't so happy about the prospect of this taking place. And even more so, from my perspective, I saw that part coming. So if it is indeed that's going on, I wouldn't be surprised to see him traded next. And I think to a point, it might not be a bad idea for the Brooklyn Nets to be shopping Kyrie Irving because of everything I just said. They really do have some size issues right now. KD is going to have to take on some defensive assignments that he probably should be avoiding. Kyrie Irving is an injury-prone player, even without all of this nonsense we talk about here. So, yeah, I'm trading him if I can, even if it means bringing back something a little less, if it fits what we do, if it makes us better, if it gives us some size. I'm doing it. I just think it makes so much sense at this point for the Brooklyn Nets to consider what their future looks like and how close they are to a championship with Harden and KD. Because now with Harden and KD, it's like, oh my God, now y'all got to build a team around those two. Don't worry about this big three momentary notice bullcrap. That's small-minded. Now you need to make sure you have those two players happy because you do have enough to win the next 2, 3, 4, 5 championships if you build it correctly. See, that's the thing about the Brooklyn Nets. You can be in love with this big three idea. That's great. But I think Kyrie Irving eating that much of the cap right now and playing the style that he does, that's not the best chance of them getting the championship. That's the best chance of them winning a regular season. You can win the regular season like crazy. But guess what? They can win the regular season without Kyrie. With Kyrie, they just got icing on the cake. And most importantly, it's icing on the cake that don't even really taste that great. It's icing on the cake that don't even really fit on there. It's like, it's the wrong flavor. But you have one of the best foundations in the league at this point. So why are you holding on to that icing that don't fit? Find some icing that fits and you can win a championship. So that would behoove the Brooklyn Nets at this point to kind of get out of the idea of having a big three as the best option for their roster. Because the reality is, though it may be, Kyrie Irving isn't the third option that makes it all come together. So for me, it's like, oh man, we trading Kyrie even if everything's going great because now we have Harden and KD. Like, I don't need Kyrie Irving. What I need is Rudy Gobert. What I need is Jared Allen. To be completely honest with you. And I'm not saying that Kyrie Irving is worth less than Jared Allen in this league, but I'm saying to the Brooklyn Nets, it's a better fit. I would rather have Jared Allen right now than Kyrie Irving if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, just off fit alone and what you need. So that's something to think about. They need to go find themselves a big man, and they need to go find a shot blocking big man fast. That's no disrespect to DeAndre Jordan, but even in DeAndre's prime, he was an overrated shot blocker. He didn't block shots like that. When he did block shots, they were emphatic, but he wasn't the guy that was blocking 2 and 3 shots a game. He wouldn't do that. His impact is more so felt on the boards in his heyday. So that's a very important aspect of this conversation. Who's blocking shots? It better be KD. It better be KD. So, yeah, man, that's just my Brooklyn Nets aspect of this. It's probably more angles to look at for Brooklyn. They have a brand new coach in Steve Nash. It's going to be very difficult for him to try to make all of this work. Mike D'Antoni is going to be his saving grace. He's going to have to lean on Mike a lot, try to get these guys to, be on board at all times and be happy with what it is that he's going to try to implement. He's going, Mike D'Antoni is the coach of this team. I'm just going to go out there and say that right now. Everybody, Mike D'Antoni is why James Harden wants to come to the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think it's KD, and I certainly don't think it's Kyrie Irving. James Harden is from LA, so he has no ties to Brooklyn. No love for Brooklyn like that I know of. No ties to the city. He's going there because he was following his coach. So it would be wise for Steve Nash and the Brooklyn Nets organization to keep that in mind at all times. All times. Because if things going to go right over the next several weeks, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they move Mike D'Antoni to the head coach and Steve Nash up out of there. Because this is not a situation where you can afford to have mistakes in the coaching position. It's too volatile of a situation. You have too many missing pieces to a cohesive basketball squad. You need a coach like Mike D'Antoni to get the most out of these players who don't necessarily fit with one another. If I'm Steve Nash, I'm falling back. I'm gonna be the face, but I'm falling back and I'm listening to Mike and I'm implementing Mike's stuff, because that's what's gonna keep James happy. And I know KD gonna be happy in any offense, because there's not an offense in the world that KD doesn't flourish in, no matter what it is, fast, slow, triangle, whatever the offense is. KD's gonna exploit it, and he's gonna be fantastic in it. So, yeah, we got to see what happens with Steve Nash, because he's been thrown in the fire, and now the stakes are high. It's championship or bust. It's finals or bust. The only thing that keeps it from being championship or bust is the presence of the Lakers. We know if the Nets run into the Lakers and they lose, there's no shame in that. But they can't lose to nobody else. You can't. And unfortunately, in my opinion, they do have some teams in the Eastern Conference that they need to be considering. Well, a team. Man, it's not more than one. It's one. It's the Philadelphia 76ers. So I'll make an entirely different video on some of the stuff that they'll have to deal with. I think I'll make a video on the Rockets and Cleveland, because I think Cleveland now is in a position to make some trades. So yeah, that's what I got for this. That's the first video I'm probably going to make on James Harden. Since I've made so many leading up to this, I'm pretty sure I'll want to talk about this some more. But that's just my early preliminary thoughts on the trade. My reaction as a Laker fan was, I don't care, dude. I still think we're better than them. I still think we're better than everybody. And I think the Nets were crippled by the trade. I thought they would be able to get this trade done without giving up Jared Allen. I figured Caris LeVert would probably be out, but I thought this trade probably wouldn't get done because of Spencer Dinwiddie's health. But they got it done, and I'm pretty sure Jared Allen would not have been involved in this trade if Dinwiddie was healthy. He would have been the guy involved. So I think this cripples them. I do. I think they are a prolific offensive team with some of the best collective superstars we've ever seen. But unlike Golden State, unlike Miami, and unlike, say, like a San Antonio, when you got a trio like this, where two guys need the ball at all times, it's hard to envision how it works with a traditional offense. It's just hard to see how they're able to cohesively work together when someone has to sacrifice so greatly. I could go as far as to say I don't think anyone, in terms of the history of big threes that I remember, is going to be in more of a position to sacrifice than probably one of these three guys. Because with Golden State, they fit. So even though guys had to sacrifice, they were sacrificing within their lanes. You look at like a team like San Antonio, I think about Ginobili as the third big three behind Tony Parker and Tim Duncan. Well, Ginobili started his career on the bench. He was raised basically to be in that role. So there was really not a sacrifice at all. That was the role. And he just happened to turn into a Hall of Famer playing it. No sacrifice there. And I look at Miami, yeah, Chris Bosh, fantastic level of selfishness displayed. Huge sacrifices. But with all due respect to Chris Bosh, I do have Kyrie Irving ranked ahead of him as great players of all time. And I do think that Kyrie Irving is going to have to make a more of a sacrifice than even Chris did in order for James Harden, one of the highest usage rate players in the history of the sport, if not the highest usage rate player in the history of the sport, him and LeBron probably. It's just kind of hard to see how that works, even if James Harden's willing to sacrifice. James Harden is still going to find his way into doing things that make it so that he just looks great. And like I said, Mike D'Antoni is behind the scenes. So chances are James Harden's going to look great. He's not going to be the guy that's going to be left out. It's going to be Kyrie. So the level of sacrifices Kyrie's going to have to make, coupled with the understanding that Kyrie doesn't want to make this type of sacrifice. He left Cleveland because of this type of thing. All the tea leaves show that he's not going to want to be there. He's not going to want to be there. So I don't know if I'm right, but just reading everything on the board here to look at, it doesn't look like he's going to want to stay. So we'll see, man. It's going to get interesting. Thank you guys for watching this. My name is BDF44. Congratulations to the Brooklyn Nets. Congratulations to the Houston Rockets as well. I think both of these teams got what they wanted out of the situation. And, shout out to the Houston Rockets GM. Brand new guy, came in and has been doing the right things everywhere you look. I haven't seen them make a single mistake at all. And they got exactly what you would want them to get in this James Harden deal. So, yeah, big kudos to them. The only thing I would say about that is, why didn't they want Chris LeVert? I would rather have him than Oladipo. That's a conversation for a whole nother day. Thank you guys for watching. My name is BDF44. I'm out.